Hello and welcome to The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano, here to break down all the things happening in pop culture and interviewing the people that make it pop. On today's show, we are doing our annual top 10 countdown of the biggest pop culture moments of the years past. Can you guys believe it? Here we are at the end of 2024, and man, is pop culture giving. We had a ton of stories. It was hard to narrow it down. But I'm going to do my best to pick the top 10 ones. Some of them are grouped together because we had a lot of similar stories happening in the news and in our pop culture lives. But yeah, we're here at the end of 2024 and really can't believe how quickly this year has gone by. We have had some incredible guests this year. I am so thrilled to think back on the people that have stopped by to share their stories, share their projects. So again, pop culture was really just giving in 2024. So it was hard to narrow down the top 10 moments of the year. But I did my best because right up until the last day of the year, I mean, just today on December 31st, we're getting news that the 8-year battle of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's divorce is coming to a close. They have finally settled this huge, long 8-year battle that they've had in their divorce settlement. And so, we're getting things just up till the wire, and the year is coming to a close. So I'm going to get right into it. I hope that you guys are all preparing for a really fabulous new year, a 2025 to remember. And I'm wishing you guys all a safe and happy New Year's Eve. But let's get right into the top 10 moments of 2024 in pop culture. So starting with number 10, okay? This is something that we talked very briefly on the pod because it was actually so dark. And Cassidy Pope and I, when she stopped by, we talked a little bit about it just because it was such a wild story that we had to talk about it. But at the time, we really didn't know what was going on. And of course, I'm talking about Princess Kate Middleton, and the scandal around her, which ended up being her cancer diagnosis. So a very sad thing, but it was this wild ride that the royal family took us on, right? Because in March, after months of speculation, or weeks, I don't know, it felt like months of speculation that something was wrong with Princess Kate because we weren't seeing her. She wasn't showing up. She was canceling things. And then there was a ton of PR, moves that were just completely botched, right? The royals botched these PR moves. They sent out fake Kates, which people were able to spot right away. There was some AI potentially happening with fake announcements or fake appearances or fake photos. Remember, there was that Christmas photo or New Year's photo that they released, and it was actually like put together by AI of like old photos past where they like changed out their children's clothing color. There was just some really wild things, and it's like they almost forgot that the internet existed. And it was just wild. And then finally in March, we get this video, which a lot of people still claimed looked like AI. Her hair wasn't blowing, but she was claiming to sit in a field. A lot of it was just very strange, but she revealed that she had cancer, and that she was undergoing treatment, and that's why we hadn't seen her. And so there was a lot of things that she revealed in this video that made it feel like, okay, let's put this to rest. A lot of the internet still claimed that something was afoot and something didn't feel right. But I don't know. I don't want to suggest that someone is faking cancer. It's not the Real Housewives of Orange County, Brooks and Vicky, if you remember that, where he faked cancer. I don't think that we're getting that here, but it surely could have been handled better by the royal family and the PR teams that are behind them. There could have been more there to address it. The good news, though, is in September, she did reveal that she was cancer-free after completing her chemotherapy treatments. So a happy story to sort of end that. But that was something that a lot of the internet was abuzz for many, many months. And so many people were talking about it, including us here at The Gist. And so I had to bring it up. So that was number 10. Now, number 9 is another, kind of sad one, but it was in our faces. And it, of course, is let's call it the love story of JLo and Ben Affleck, right? We were so caught off guard, or at least I was, when they got back together after all these years. They had this wild romance. She had released "This Is Me," "This Is Me Now," or "This Is Me Then." I can't remember even now what the title of the album was, because this year was wild with the way that she did this whole rollout for her new one. But she was she had like a song called "Dear Ben." Their romance was just so wild. Like, he was kind of like this cool guy and then they got engaged, but then they ended their engagement. They never went through with the wedding, and they ended things, but everyone thought that they were this like wild couple, wildly in love. And it didn't work for whatever reasons. And so, it was shocking when they got back together after, he left the other Jennifer. And, Ben was in the news with his Dunkin' Donuts and cigarette breaks, and he wasn't looking so hot. And then all of a sudden he's back with JLo. Now, around all of this time, she's also promoting her new album, which is "This Is Me Now," or then, I can't even remember. Like I said, it's like she's releasing part 2 of the album where Dear Ben was on it. So some people did speculate, like, is all of this just publicity for her new album, that they're even together? But then they got married. And so it seemed like a real deal. And this year, they, of course, now have gotten divorced. And so once again, this romance has failed. And since then, Ben has been spending a lot of time with his ex, Jennifer Garner, though recently, I think they spent the holidays together. And their PR teams or spokespeople have said that the reason that they're spending so much time together is really just for the kids. So there's not really a lot there in terms of romance for them. We shouldn't expect them to rekindle anything. Though maybe, I don't know, they spend a lot of time together, and maybe they are the true love story here at the end of the day. And then JLo, over the holiday season, has been seen with also recently single Kevin Costner, which is kind of a wild romance, if you ask me. I was pretty shocked to hear about this, but hey, I mean, I've heard good things about what Kevin Costner brings to the bedroom. And so, hey, good for JLo. So they've been in Aspen, spotted together, out and about. There's not any like, romantic, they haven't been seen holding hands, even like things like that haven't happened, but they are obviously together. And I'm guessing not just because they're working on a movie over the holiday season. So good for them. Hopefully they all land on their feet. JLo does seem to just be a serial monogamist, hopping from one relationship to another. So maybe she just needs a little time for herself, and I hope that she gets it into 2025. All right, so that brings us to number 8 on the list, and I'm going to say it's just Justin Timberlake, period, because there's a lot to unpack here. First, Justin Timberlake was preparing this big sort of relaunch of his music career. We had been hearing about it. He was in the studio with Timbaland. Everyone was like, oh, he's coming back. He's bringing sexy back, right? And then there was all the NSYNC reunion rumors, and then NSYNC got back together. They released the song from the Trolls soundtrack. They showed up at the VMAs together. Everybody was like, what's happening? Something's going to happen. This was kind of the end of last year. And then Justin released his new single. There was new NSYNC music, just the one song. And he was really promoting this new record. And right around the same time as he's releasing, the record, the tour information, he gets arrested. And he gets arrested in upstate New York after what appeared to be a wild night of drinking. Certainly witnesses say that he was definitely imbibing. And he left in a car, sped away, got pulled over after swerving around in different lanes. He refused to take the roadside sobriety test. And so he was charged with a DWI, was arrested, taken in. And Of course, we got this incredible pop culture moment where he tells the police officer, this is going to ruin the tour. The police officer responds, what tour? And his response is simply, the world tour. And the police officer had no idea who he was, had no idea what NSYNC was. It was just kind of comical. But then it didn't really stop there because he, pled not guilty. He was kind of in and out of like where he was going to land, if he was going to like take this all the way. And then ultimately he did plead guilty for a lesser charge for impaired driving. And his sentence was like something comical. It was very little. He's getting off scot-free, as Justin Timberlake tends to do in these kinds of scandalous situations. And so the internet really turned on him. And tickets to his concerts were selling very slowly. He was canceling some of the dates. He really was like the comeback was not going in his direction. And so it kind of became a Justin Timberlake takedown. The arrest happened. Then there was cheating rumors. So then there was rumors that Justin wasn't alone when he was arrested and that there was actually a female in the car with him that was not his wife. And then people started speculating that they were on the rocks and that relationship was going to end. She has said that she's standing by him. It all feels very PR. They haven't been seen together a lot, but they, definitely are seemingly still together. The album just completely flopped. There was not a lot of talk. It came out. He did go out on this tour. It was comical also that he called it the world tour because he did some like North American dates. I think he had like 1 or 2 dates in Canada that he did, but he really, did not have the year that I think he was expecting to have. And then sort of at the end of the year, the kind of icing on this takedown cake is that somebody posted a video from the show in Nashville where he's wearing a harness. And let me just say, this harness is on very tight and there is very little happening in his, down there area. And so everyone on the internet was talking about Justin Timberlake's teeny weeny. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I do feel for the guy. Like, that's tough. And that's tough to recover from. There's really no coming back. I don't know where you go from that. I did start seeing like some old clips where I can't remember her name. I think it was like Patricia Richardson, but I can't remember her name, but she was in the movie Friends with Benefits with him. And she claims that he is packing. And this is like a years ago clip that she had. And I'm sure Justin's people had something to do with the fact that it landed in my timeline and in other people's timelines, because they're probably trying to like combat. But I don't know, the video doesn't lie. It's pretty damning. And so I think that Justin Timberlake's teeny weeny is number 8 on our list, which moves us to number 7. And this is just because that I love my housewives. And so I had to kind of talk about the Bravo universe in general. But there were some legal issues in the Bravo universe this year, some folks that got in some trouble. And no, I'm not talking about the recent split between Craig and Paige. Craig, of course, from Southern Charm, Paige from Summer House. They have been sort of our Bravo couple for the last 3 years. And there has been a lot of speculation this year that they had called it quits. And just in the last week, Paige confirmed that they have, in fact, separated and that they have ended their relationship. My guess is that the speculation and the time that everyone was rumored that they weren't together, they probably weren't. But, when you're on these shows, you're not allowed to talk about certain things because there might be storylines that play out. And so Southern Charm is now on the air. Summer House is about to come back. And so I'm assuming we're going to kind of see the relationship fizzle on these 2 shows as we go into the end of the year. Paige was probably allowed to announce, yes, that they're not together, but there isn't a lot of details, and I'm assuming we'll see that play out. But that is not number 7. I just had to mention, because again, pop culture is giving, and right up until the very last day of the year. But in other Bravo news is the legal issues. So, of course, we'll start with Peter Thomas from Real Housewives of Potomac. Well, actually, he's from Real Housewives of Atlanta, originally married to Cynthia, then popped up on Real Housewives of Potomac in a storyline with Wendy. And then there was rumors that he was working on his own reality series. And apparently those rumors were true, that he was, in fact, filming for his own sort of reality series about documenting his life. But while he was doing this, he gets charged with tax evasion. Apparently, he hadn't been paying taxes for almost 10 years on certain businesses. And so he just got sentenced, and he has landed himself in prison for 18 months. Now, part of the reason that his sentencing actually got reduced in the sentencing trial was that he was, in fact, filming this reality series. And so the production company wrote a letter on his behalf to try to like get him out sooner. They asked for, I think, 12 months and 1 day, so that he would go just for a year. I'm sure then try to like reduce that for good behavior, and get him out sooner. But he ended up getting 18 months. And then I think he has to be supervised in home for up to 2 years. I don't know if it's 2 years after that or just a total of 2 years of sort of incarceration. But yeah, so Peter Thomas is facing some jail time. James Kennedy also landed himself in some legal trouble from Vanderpump Rules right around the time that we're finding out that the show is going to be rebooted. So there is no more of our Lalas, Sheenas, James. We've lost the Katies, the Arianas, all of this storyline that we have followed for, I guess, 11 seasons. Just really, I think that we came to the end. The way that it ended, the cast was really separated. Scandival just really tore these people apart. A lot of them don't speak to each other anymore, and producers ultimately decided the show needed to be rebooted. So this news gets announced that the show will return, but with a completely rebooted cast. And then we get news that James Kennedy was arrested for domestic violence. Allie has come out, his girlfriend has come out with a statement basically saying that she's fine, that she's taking space. She seems to be somewhat supportive. They don't seem to have ended their relationship. James says that he's seeking, the help that he needs. Others have come forward and said that James has been abusive to not only Allie, but in other relationships in the past. Kristen Doty has referenced this and hinted at that. Raquel. So there seems to be a pattern. So not great news for him. We shall see. He was also, facing a sobriety journey on the show. And I'm guessing that didn't happen. People were saying that he was acting pretty wild. He was at Kathy Hilton's Christmas party, and this is where sort of things escalated. He left, and then ultimately the domestic violence charges came against him. So more to sort of come on that, I assume, into the new year. But yeah, so, and we won't see this play out on the show because he is no longer part of it. And then lastly, Karen Huger. And guys, her drunk driving, so she got a DUI. She hit, I think it was a telephone pole. She got pulled over. We didn't know a lot other than like what we had read in the story was that she got a DUI, that she got pulled over, that she was taken in, like, all of the things that like we have access to. And then the show starts and she basically she's saying she can't talk about anything. She's like, she won't admit that she even got pulled over. She won't admit that like there was any drunk driving. Like she was like, I can't talk about anything. But you will ultimately see once the court case is done that I come off scot-free. Well, that wasn't the case because, a few weeks ago, we get the police cam footage and the body cam footage from the police arrest and pull over. Guys, it was something, it's giving Countess Luann when we saw her get arrested, but almost even worse because, she's refusing to talk about it on the show. And I mean, obviously she didn't know these videos were going to surface, because had she known, she should have been really doing like overtime to apologize. I mean, she's dropping Andy Cohen's name. The police officer has no idea who she is. She keeps saying like, "Do you know who I am?" At one point, I mean, she is so drunk in these videos. Her husband, Ray, was like, I don't really want her to say anything more, but when she was that drunk, she just kept talking. She almost falls as they take her out at the police station of the car. She almost falls down and says, "Man, I'm lit," something. And they're like, "Yeah, that's why you're here." Um, yeah, it's wild. And then in her questioning, she says that she's Thomas Jefferson's concubine at one point. It is wild. It is wild videos. They are not good. And she's also, this is not her first DUI. So she is going in for her trial and sentencing in the new year. And I think she's going to face some jail time. I really do. I don't think she's going to get out of it, given how bad this was. And also, the fact that it's not her first offense. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I also wonder how Bravo will respond to this, and if we might see Karen get put on pause. This is not good. It's not a good look. So we shall see. And so number 7 is our Bravo legal issues, which brings us to number 6, another legal issue that has swept the nation in a very, very kind of strange way. And I feel like it's almost controversial. So I'm like going to skip by it, because I don't even know where I stand on it, quite frankly. But of course I had to mention Luigi Mangione. He is everywhere. Okay. Obviously we know him because he killed the United Healthcare CEO in I mean, the middle of the street in front of people. I mean, it was so wild. I unfortunately saw the video and I didn't even want to. It just was on my timeline the morning it happened. And then he was, they were hunting him because he was on the loose. It was this case is just so wild, and it's hard to unpack because he killed someone, right? He killed someone, but the internet reacted in such a strange way. Because like when there's a school shooting, or when there's other sort of like gun violence or other things that are happening with murder, I mean, this is murder. We all sort of come together in the fact that like murder is murder. And when you are a killer, you're a killer. But something really nuts happened here. First of all, as we learned, as we finally got sort of who this person was, and we identified that it was Luigi, people were able to find photos of him, and the internet like found these thirst traps of him with his shirt off, and women started talking about, women and gays and maybe even the straights too, started talking about how attractive he was. And it's like, we forgot that he was also a murderer. Like wherever you stand on the whole healthcare debate, at the end of the day, this person murdered someone, and we're talking about how attractive he is, and everyone's like thirsting after him. And it was just so strange to like see the way in which the internet, I mean, people that I know, a lot of you probably listening, were like posting things about like, oh, like he's my, prison daddy. And, it's just wild. It's wild because again, he did murder someone. Now, he did plead not guilty. We're going to hear a lot more about this in 2025 because the story is just sort of just starting to take shape. He obviously is in prison, but it just caused such an uproar. And, the debate on healthcare is like, United Healthcare is known for denying a lot of claims and making it really difficult for people to receive the healthcare that they even pay for. And so people are saying like, United Healthcare, and then the CEO who is responsible are also murderers, and they're murdering people every day. And so that's people's sort of stance on this, is like, he's a murderer, but is it really an eye for an eye? And I don't know. I mean, I understand that like maybe there is a healthcare problem. Actually, not maybe, there is. That is my stance. There is a problem with healthcare. and the way in which people are able or not able to get the care that they need. And I agree that like insurance is too expensive and they make it too difficult and complex and what's covered and not covered. It is very confusing, and I think oftentimes very confusing on purpose. And so I totally understand that, but I don't totally agree that like that means that we should allow for CEOs or executives or anybody affiliated with these healthcare companies to be murdered. And so, yeah, a lot more to come on that, but that is our number 6 moment of the year, and probably going to be something that we talk about a lot next year as well. Moving into something a little bit lighter, though, is our number 5 moment. And I'm just going to say it's Salt Lake City. It's the Mormons. Guys, there is so much that was happening. So last year, Salt Lake City really took center stage after we got receipts, proof, timeline, screenshots from our housewives of SLC. We didn't think that it could get any better. It was like, okay, our Salt Lake women, they are bringing it to a new level. I mean, after Jen Shah's arrest, and they have been delivering since season 1 from a housewife's perspective. And we have learned so much about just the ladies of Salt Lake City. We had learned about like the Mormon culture a little bit. It was like, it was a new take on housewives that was really refreshing. And then the last season was just incredibly explosive in so many ways. The way that it ended, it was like unsure where we were going to go from there. How could they ever top it? And then this year, they have really continued to deliver. It's still on. So, we haven't seen its conclusion. We are ramping up, though. We've got new housewives. We've got, Brittany, who is a friend of this season, is just a pop culture icon. Truly. She is an icon, and she is delivering so much, and she's such a gift. But yes, we didn't think that it could get any better. And then Hulu was like, take that, Bravo. And they released The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and they delivered it to us in a bow, a package. It was pop culture television that we needed in such a way. And it is wild TV. And if you have not seen it, I urge you to run. Don't walk, run, because season 2 is hot on our heels. We are going to get season 2 next year. But in the first episode, we get introduced to Taylor Frankie Paul, who was exposed for a Mormon swinging mom talk. They were all on TikTok. It was all these moms on TikTok, and a bunch of them ended up swinging with each other's husbands, and it got revealed on TikTok. And it was salacious, and it was so delicious. And then, so we're getting kind of the fallout of mom talk on the first episode, and it ends with who we think is the good one, or the one that's like, going to be our sort of star of the show, Taylor Frankie Paul, getting arrested for domestic violence with her boyfriend. And that's episode 1 on Housewives. This would have been a full season arc. Okay. They were giving us so much from episode 1. And then we thought we were getting all kinds of information about the Mormon culture on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. No, there was so much to unpack, from the what are they, 64-ounce sodas that they drink. There's, instead of Starbucks, because Mormons can't have caffeine, instead they have Swig, which is like on every corner apparently in Salt Lake City. And it's like their drink orders, they like go in and get these 64-ounce sodas, which I think I guess they're all caffeine free, but I don't even know, because the Mormon culture, it's like the rules that of the things you're not allowed to do, but then it seems like everyone just sort of makes their own rules of what they believe in. But they're like going in and they're like, I'll have a Dr. Pepper with 3 pumps of coconut and 2 pumps of sugar free, and this thing and that syrup. And all of a sudden I'm like, what are they drinking? And they're having these like huge massive ones of these, and they're like, oh yeah, I drink like 7 of them a week. And it's wild. And so you're like learning about that. We've got Fruit Loop, or not Fruit Loops, so we're the Fruity Pebbles, which we still don't fully understand the storyline around that. And I'm just going to say, if you haven't watched it, then I'm going to leave it there, because you need to go find out what the Fruity Pebbles storyline is all about. It's wild. But there is just so much happening on this show, and it is such good pop culture television. It like reminds me of when The Simple Life, which by the way also rebooted this year, Nicole and Paris gave us sort of a I think it was 20-year reunion. If you haven't seen that special on Peacock, I urge you check it out. It is fun. It's certainly not the television that they originally gave us, but it is fun to revisit them. But when the Simple Life originally came out, it was so unique, and it was giving so much. I feel like that's how Secret Lives of Mormon Wives was. And man, I am in. I can't wait for season 2. And of course, our housewives are still delivering. So thank you, Salt Lake City, for the pop culture that you've given us. I can't wait to see what else you have in store. And that moves us to number 4. Now, this is a darker one, but has to be addressed. Is Liam Payne from One Direction died this year. We don't know a lot about the details. We know that he fell from his balcony in his hotel room. Details are continuing to be released. 5 people were just charged in his death. So originally, people said, did he jump? Was it a suicide? Did he, fall? Was it an accident? Then, pictures were released of the hotel room where he had kind of like damaged the hotel room. There was drug paraphernalia. So it was really unclear as to like what really happened. As we are starting to get more from this story, we know that he had friends and hotel employees that were giving him drugs or supplying him with drugs. We know that the hotel manager, they said that he was acting erratic, and so they made him go to his hotel room, and then they essentially, locked him in there. They weren't letting him leave the hotel room, and he had been known to try to escape from hotels, even in his One Direction days, by leaving in the balconies. They called the 911 call. The hotel management or staff does say, we are worried because there's a balcony in his hotel room and he's acting erratic, but therefore they were also not letting him leave the premises. So, and then obviously they didn't arrive in time, and he fell to his death. And, it was shocking because One Direction is one of our biggest pop groups of all time. And he's our first member that has passed away, and it was incredibly sad to see that. Also, there was a lot of people that passed away this year that were huge pop icons as well that should be noted while we're here on number 4 and in this kind of dark cloud of sadness. Paying respects. Shannon Doherty lost her battle with cancer. Incredibly she was one of my favorite TV stars. I was a huge fan of Beverly Hills 90210 as a child. I watched Charmed. I really, Heathers, of course, is an iconic film. Like, Shannon Doherty was truly a pop culture icon. And it was sad to see her go. Everyone had said that she is reunited now with Dylan, Luke Perry, in heaven. And I love that sort of sentiment because they were sort of this epic love story on 90210. And so I love to see them kind of back together. But, we lost Richard Simmons, Bob Newhart, James Earl Jones, Quincy Jones, Shelley Duvall from The Shining, just so many people that we lost this year. And it's really unfortunate. And so that is our number 4, really focusing on the Liam Payne of it all, but, just sort of the memory of the folks that we lost in 2024. Number 3, a little bit brighter moment, is Wicked, right? Because Wicked was defying gravity in 2024. All year long, we knew that we were getting this movie around the Thanksgiving holiday. We knew that, this had been talked about for years, okay, that Wicked was going to become a movie. There's been casting rumors for as long as I can remember. I remember at one point, like, Catherine McPhee, everyone thought was going to be Elphaba. And back when Catherine was like just coming kind of off of Idol and in Smash and stuff. This has been a long time in the making. But of course we got Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, and we've got Glinda our very own Ariana Grande as Glinda, the Good Witch. Now, I love the Ariana story. I love that when she was young, she saw Kristen Chenoweth in the play and backstage said that she wanted to play Glinda. She has been for most of her career saying that that is her dream, is that someday she'll play Glinda, whether it was in a movie or on the stage. It didn't matter. She just wanted to play the character and ultimately landed this role. And I'm telling you, I saw the movie. I actually took myself on a little date because Joe, my husband, did not really want to see it. He had heard that the runtime was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I get it. He was like, yeah, I'm not sitting through that. And this is only part one of the film. So he was like, I don't know, but he did say, just so you don't come for him, he did say, if you really want to see it, I'll go. But I had a day off and I thought, I'm going to take myself. I'm going to take myself on a little date. I'm going to go see Wicked. Oh, I mean, it wasn't long enough. Okay. It was so good. And I thought, even in the first scene, I was like, am I going to be able to not see the pop star Ariana Grande? Man, she delivered. She really delivered in that character in such a massive way. There's tons of awards buzz for both of the characters. I think we're going to see Ariana win some awards in the first part of the year. Obviously, Cynthia Erivo is incredible. It was just everyone this year was seeing Pink and Green. And it wasn't even just after the film. It was leading up to the film. We had so much. And the interviews, the friendship that these two have had, we're holding space for it, right? There is so much that this film has given us by way of pop culture moments. It was incredible. It is now the highest grossing Broadway adaptation of film. It surpassed Mamma Mia, who had originally held that spot. I think it's going to continue to do massive numbers as we go into the new year. I think today it's New Year's Eve, but either today or tomorrow it's landing on streaming, so it'll be available in homes. So I think on New Year's Day, people are going to be downloading this film. We are going to continue to see the epic rise of Wicked and what this first part is going to deliver by way of numbers. And then the story doesn't end because part 2 comes out next year. And by the way, I need it now. I need to see it immediately. As soon as part 1 ended and it said to be continued, I was ready to sit down for another 3 hours and watch part 2. But yeah, so Wicked may just be on the list next year too. And then that brings us to number 2, something that we also will probably be talking about next year because it was wild, is just the P Diddy arrest. Okay. We, again, didn't talk a lot about this on the podcast because there was so little that we really knew. We knew that he got arrested. We knew that the charges were abuse, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson. They just go on and on. There was so much that was coming out, and then so many things. I think he's got 24 lawsuits and counting. They just keep coming out. People keep coming forward with things. Now Jay-Z has been named in one of the lawsuits. It's going to get ugly, and there are so many stories that other celebrities are involved in these sort of sex parties that he was hosting. There's a lot of abuse with young underage people. Justin Bieber's name is coming into the story a lot about what may or may not have happened with P Diddy and him. It's very dark, and it's why I really have stayed kind of away from it, because we don't have facts, and I don't want to say anything that isn't necessary to talk about here. But obviously we know that he is in prison. He has been there since September 19th. He has attempted bail 3 different times with 3 different judges, denied every time. He isn't going anywhere. People say that him and Luigi are in the same jail, I think in Brooklyn. And he will be in jail, and most likely until his trial, which is set to begin May 5th. So we're still a ways away from that. And like I said, certainly a lot will be coming out about what really happened and the names of people that were involved. I'm sure that this trial is going to take center stage in 2025 in a really massive way in terms of pop culture. So like I said, we will probably be talking about that and Wicked next year, because I think that there are going to be 2 massive things that will continue to sort of see play out in the next year. And then that brings us to number one. Here we are, last day of the year, our number one biggest pop culture moment of the year is our Pop Girlies. Okay, because 2024 is dedicated to the year of Pop Girlies, which, I am thrilled by this news because it's all I ever want is the girls to dominate. I'm a Britney stan. I love my Christinas. That era, by the way, of Britney, like when we got Jessica Simpson, Mandy Moore, Christina Aguilera, it was such a wild moment. And then we had like girl bands like Innocence and of course, Pussycat Dolls came out, but like the girls were always delivering. And I feel like they never really got their due. But I feel like this year in 2024, the girls are getting their due. And there are three newish comers. Like they're not all newcomers, but there are three that really took center stage. But just in general, we got massive albums. Taylor Swift released an album. Dua Lipa released her new album. Beyonce released her new album. Ariana Grande, before all the Wicked promo, she released her new album. Billie Eilish released an album. Camila Cabello released her fourth album. Like we were given the goods from the girls this year. But the three that really sort of stood out and sort of rose up, so Chappell Roan is kind of our newcomer, right? Like Chappell Roan is a newer name who just sort of exploded this year. Her song "Good Luck Babe" is being named the top song of the year on a lot of the music media lists, and I think that she's going to be unstoppable. Now she has to be careful because we've also gotten some pop culture moments with her where she, doesn't want to interact with fans. She's come out online and told fans to like kind of leave her alone. She's getting overwhelmed by the fame. She's had some incidents on the red carpet with photographers. So there are some things that it's like, okay, she's got to slow down. She's got to ground herself. And hopefully, if fame's not for her, then maybe it's not for her. But she is an incredible artist. Her album is very, very good. It's an incredible pop record from start to finish. And "Good Luck Babe" was an incredible sort of like follow-up song. Really looking forward to seeing what she does in the new year. And then, of course, Charli XCX. Now, this is why I say they're the newcomers, because Charli XCX has been around for years, if not like a full decade. I feel like Charli XCX has been around for a long time. Of course, we've got her. You know her from Fancy with Iggy Azalea. You know her from Iconopop, Boom Clap. We know her from so much of her. And then, of course, her own music. But her own music never really popped because there was a lot of experimental things that she's delivered in terms of music and how she sort of put sounds together. She kind of like really created a lot of these like short songs that like now almost all pop songs are pretty short because of the TikTok era. But man, Apple became a huge song on TikTok this year with the Apple dance. Even I got involved and posted my version of the dance on TikTok. If you want to check it out and have a good laugh. But what really happened was she released Brat, the album, and everyone was talking about it being a Brat summer. Even Kamala Harris and her campaign were using the Brat soundtrack essentially for Brat summer. And everyone knew the green background with the Brat writing. Like it was truly a pop culture moment of 2024 that we will not forget. And Charli XCX was the reason for it. And I love seeing an artist who has been around for a long time finally kind of getting their due. And I think she got that. And I think there's hopefully more to come from her in the years to come. And another artist that has been around forever, and people did not know this. There are so many people that I talked to about this next artist, and they didn't realize that this last like grouping of albums, the last two albums, were not her first. And of course, I'm talking about Sabrina Carpenter. Okay. So a lot of people came upon the scene in this last year, really, into the year before in 2023, she had given us her last record, but had Feather as a single and Nonsense. And those two songs really started to like gain some pop momentum. People were really getting into them. Obviously, she went on tour with Taylor Swift on the Eras tour as an opener. So people really started to understand who Sabrina Carpenter was as an artist. And her songs, even though they had been released, so like Nonsense, for example, was just like continuing to blow up. And she was doing these outros to Nonsense that went viral. And so she had a really big moment. And then she released Short and Sweet, her new record. And a lot of people thought that was like her debut or thought it was her second record. And she has had, I want to say she's had like 5, 6 records. I don't even know, maybe even 7. She has had a lot of records. And it's just incredible. She has been at this for so long, and Short and Sweet, like I said, I actually think it's her 7th record, was such a massive record. Starting off with Espresso, it had everyone. I truly think, I mean, I know that I just mentioned Chapel has been getting song of the year on a lot of these lists. I think this was the year of Espresso. I mean, that is the single of the year in my mind. It was so massive. It was everywhere. It really catapulted her to the next level. And then she followed it up with Please, 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 which became her first #1 single on Billboard. And Please, Please, Please and Espresso sat in the top 10 since their release. And outside of, the Christmas time where we all get all Christmas music in the top 10, those songs were there. I wouldn't be surprised if they return to the top 10 in the next week or two. And her third single, Taste, then also was in the top 10 once it got released as a single. And it's like the album is delivering front to back. There are so many songs. She could go several more songs deep in terms of singles. Bedchem is a huge one that people are loving. It's also on the Hot 100, bubbling up a lot. Juno is an incredible song from that. Slim Pickens is this country song. I mean, there's so many songs that you could just pick and say, these could be singles and be hugely, wildly successful songs. But the problem is that they're not releasing any more singles because the first 3 won't slow down. And so she's just kind of riding this wave, and she's had an incredible, incredible run this year, and had everyone talking about Espresso. And so, so the Pop Girlies they were our biggest moment of 2024. And that brings us to the end of the list. And of course, the end of the episode. Guys, I can't believe everything that we have gone through in this last year. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank my Pop Girlies for giving us what they've given us. And I want to thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, or if you liked any of our episodes from this year, be sure to rate us, be sure to follow or subscribe, depending on where you're listening. And most importantly, leave some comments. Let me know what you'd like to see. We typically do interviews throughout the year. So I bring a lot of pop culture guests on to just talk about what they've got going on in pop culture. That's what we do here at The Gist. I want them to share their stories with us. But in the end of the year, we always do some of these fun sort of countdowns and reliving sort of the top 10 moments or the top 10 Christmas songs, which was our last episode. So, this is what we do here on The Gist. And if you like it, please follow along. You can follow me at CM Vetrano on all the social platforms. I'm there continuing to hear from you, talk to you guys about what's happening in pop culture, and would love to hear who you'd like to see on the pod. Because we got a lot of guests in store for 2025 that I'm super excited about, and more pop culture moments to come. So until next year, it's Chris Vetrano signing off. Bye.